stop stream. Oh, the stream. Okay, so now it's calling. Okay. Now, I have a few slides about introduction section. And in introduction section, I basically would like to answer the question, let me put this off. What I will learn in this course. Again, you already saw the list of items that I would like to explain in this class. But what is the thing in detail that you will learn? This is extremely important because this is a kind of still a time that you can decide if it's go or no go. You can still leave this course. You can skip the course if you feel that the subject matter is something that you're not interested, or if there's something else that you are not interested in. So that's what I'd like to explain. What is it we will do in this course, and what is the knowledge that you can gain in this course? So a few slides about that, and then we're going to move on. So this is a kind of like the overall picture of the course. Remember that in this very first slide when there was this introduction, I mentioned that we have different boxes. We wanted to combine different boxes, and each one of the boxes representing kind of a feature of the machines. Like there's a mechanical modeling, there's an actuator models, there's a control scheme. Now, how is we going to do that? In this course, we're going to do that by combining different softwares together. Now, we're not going to use anything too weird or too out of the ordinary. This is still a standard technique used in industry, current industry. So basically, we're going to combine graphics using CAD software, which is a very basic stuff. So typically when there's a design assignment, there's a drawings available, or if not drawings are available, then you're the one or someone else is the one that is actually making those three-dimensional representation of components, mechanical components. Those can be exported to multi-body software, and those can be expressed as rigid bodies or as a flexible bodies. Now, if you want to express a component, say a frame structure of this particular body that is a red in color, if you want to express that as a flexible body, then it's possible that you can send this graphical information to a finite element software. And in a finite element software, you can do the meshing, and after the meshing, you can have a representation of finite element model. And the finite element model, that's the one that is shown here. And the finite element look like a fishing net in a bit, like everything is covered by net. What this net is about and what is a mathematical representation of the net, we will get back to that a little later. But you have the communication between the CAD software and the finite element method, and from the finite element you can send the information about how is a deformation of how are the different assumed deformations of the body, and then that's the information you can use to describe deformable bodies. And then we're going to combine all of that with the Simulink, and in a Simulink we're going to build a control algorithm that allows to control the system. And this could be something that can be very sophisticated, as you know that the Simulink is a software that offers many different ready-made tools. With help of these ready-made tools, you can build very sophisticated control algorithm. And then you can test that together with the multi-body model. And now if you look at this carefully, this box that is orange in color, that actually is a representation of multi-body model. And then all this is just what is it you can find from the Simulink. Then later, you can replace the Simulink and make it in a Y@D space to real machine. And that's how you can actually test all these in a real machine. We do most of this except testing in a final machine, in a real machine. Why is it we don't do that? That simply is kind of related to renovation that the building number 1 experienced a year ago. Because during the renovation, most of the devices, including this crane that you saw in the picture earlier, that was removed, and they are still not installed back. We'll see what's going to happen during the course of this course, but most likely we cannot do these experiments in reality, which is kind of the sad thing, because I would like you also learn about a bit about the measurement technology. So how is you can measure different quantities, and how is that you can carry out the measurements in lab space. But we'll see. We'll see how is the progress of the course. We'll see maybe some miracles will happen. Okay, then I guess that this is the time that I need to, or soon I need to move back to my PowerPoint presentation because I have some animations that I'd like to share with you. But just that, you know, when it comes to development of multi-body formulations, you know, everything in multi-body perspective got started from like 1980s or roughly that time. That's when the first commercial codes were available. And the first code were made such a way that they were only able to deal with the rigid bodies. The rigid bodies that cannot deform no matter how forces you impose into them. So it's always undeformable bodies. And now soon, sometimes in the 90s, they realized that this is not the assumption that is not very accurate. And if you want to make accurate models, you must be able to describe mechanical flexibility. The most common way to describe the mechanical flexibility is a method that is called floating frame reference formulation. And that's the one that I will explain to you in this course. So I will explain why the name floating frame, what is that it can do, what is that it cannot do. But the trend in multi-body dynamics is not to just stay here when you can describe small deformation, because the floating frame reference formulation, as shown here, has a limitation. And the limitation is that it is limited to small deformation. It cannot be used, at least cannot be used in a straightforward manner to applications where the deformation is large. Where the deformation is large, well, the example is like the belt that is shown here. So now the belt, when you look at the deformation of the belt, it is very large. And this is something that you cannot describe by using a floating frame reference formulation. But instead you can use another formulation. So I'm gonna introduce you a basics about method that is called the absolute Noddack coordinate formulation. It's designed particularly for this kind of challenging applications, which is like airbag, using cars, clothings, you know, some of the biomechanical components, because many of the biomechanical components, there is a very large deformation, like the muscles, tendons, and other components, you need to describe large deformation. Okay, so this is where, if you look at the commercial softwares, you know, they can handle these two scenarios. Some of them can handle this scenario as well, but it's not yet there. So we're kind of looking a little bit what will happen in the future, near future. And then I have an animation in my this slide and next slide, so I will need to get back to that. We're going to look a little bit about what about one particular application of multi-body dynamics, which is predicting loading conditions. Because now, we have this department, we have specialization, which is called welding structures or welding. What is that called? Welding.
Welded structures.
Welded structures. Yeah, welded structures. And in that specialization, there is a welding technology itself, and then the steel structures. And in steel structures, many of the, they're looking like, how are the features of welded structures? Welded steel structures. And in the welded steel structures, one of the problems you're often facing is fatigue. And how is that we can use the multi-body dynamics together with the fatigue? Or not together with the fatigue, but providing the input data for fatigue analysis. So we can provide the loading data, we can provide the strain history or stress history, any particular location of the multi-body model, and that in turn can be used to predict the fatigue life. And that's something that we're going to look in this course too. So we are able to predict the stress histories like the one that is shown here. So all this is actually based on the simulation. So it's almost like the measurements you can carry out by using a strain gauges. But now this is based on the simulation. And then, okay, now when the error survey went off, perfect timing, because then we're gonna move on to PowerPoint presentation. Okay. So this first example is related to, I don't know if this is too small for you. Kind of. So I'm gonna make it a bit bigger. Just an example about excuse me, flexible bodies, and this is what the flexible body that I would like to introduce here is related to these cables. So the cables are modeled as a flexible bodies, but they are actually something that are quite difficult component to model. There are a number of special features related to cables. One of the most common special feature that is a bit difficult to model is a string effect. The string effect is something that axial strain of the cable affects to this transverse bending. You know that if you take a cable and you leave it like hanging like this, and then you stretch it, it started to vibrate, and more you stretch, the higher the vibration. That is called string effect. The string effect is extremely important in cables and must be modeled, no matter if you're running in things in real time or offline, is always very important. So this is just an example about a bit about what is it you can model with flexible bodies. Okay, is it still running or not running any longer? So this is the thing we look. Okay, these are the things related to contact modeling. So the contact modeling is needed in many different applications, but we're going to look like a little bit about the bearing applications, and then the modeling of different particles and contact between the particles. Here is a simple ball bearing, and the ball bearing is rotated. This goes a bit to field of uses upon it, and how it's actually affecting the stability of the bearing. So there is no force introduced to this model, but simply because of how is ball locations, the loading here is fluctuating all the time, because the balls, they carry the load differently depending on their location. So this is just a simple example. Is all need quite a bit of knowledge about the contact modeling. And then we're going to look a little bit about what are the new procedures in simulation. The new procedures in simulation, one of the important, very exciting opportunities related to this predictive simulation. This is what I mentioned to you in the very end of the simulation of a mechatronic machine. But let me just stop this and let me shortly explain what's the deal with this. Is it? Yeah, okay. Now, in this model, there is a representation of human body. That this representation of human body consists of number of particles. Those are combined together with joints, like in multi-body applications. Now, this particular body has an objective to stay in upright position no matter what. So upright position means that this upper trunk must be in an upright position in a different scenarios. And now what happens inside of the simulation, this simulation is using the technology where things are computed much faster than the real time. Much faster than the real time. In this particular application is like hundreds of times and faster than the real time. And what it means that this human representation will actually look different motion scenarios in the future, because it's capable to compute faster than the real time. So it will see that if I will continue with this motion scenario, I will lose the stability. And then there is a system based on artificial intelligence that is selecting from different motion scenarios the one that is the most desirable. It's simply looking, okay, these are the possibilities, and out of these possibilities, this is the best. And now I'm going to select the best one. And because I'm selecting the best one, the human body remains more or less upright position. And then again, you're going to move on to next time. Again, you're going to projecting things in a forward of time. You can kind of have an understanding what will happen in the future. And now when you understand what happens in the future, again, you will select the most desired scenario. That's how it works. Now, this is used in a game technology. It could be it's not all the time realistic. So it looks a little bit of fake physics, but kind of all right. What about next scenario? Predicting, avoiding? Oh, kind of all right. No, I don't know. Would you do the same thing if, well, I don't know. Maybe it would look different. Yeah, I would do exactly like that. That would be me. That would be me. That too. No, not me. I would be more flexible than that. But it remains in upright position quite nicely. Although that the physics is not super accurate, but still is capable to do something like that. Very important to understand that this is not based on the pre-computed scenarios. So you can do whatever you want. And you can introduce whatever motion you want and whatever disturbances you want. Okay, that's not good. No, it's just introducing what about the different parameters. If you play with the parameters, how that will affect. Then there's some problems. Not good. Too much spinning. Okay. Is it optimal? Yeah, so it's all based on this predictive simulation. So it's predicting what will happen in the future, and based on the prediction, it's selecting the desired outcome. Is very interesting stuff. Very interesting. This is in a, you may wonder why is that the motion is not looking realistic. And it's not looking realistic because this is computed by using game engines. And there's a close relation between the multi-body dynamics and game engines, but they're not the same thing. There are some differences as well. What are these differences? We will get back to that, but roughly, well, very roughly speaking, some of the game engines are not accurate in terms of, well, that was wild. It disappeared completely. So roughly speaking, some of the game engines are not accurate in terms of physics. They can, because they are not built to make accurate physics. They are built to make sure that everything will be completed in real time. Because they want to make sure that, because their priority is in real time, sometimes they have to compromise the accuracy. And that's the difference between the multi-body dynamics and game engines. Okay, now, 3D multi-body dynamics. So what do you say? Do you have energy to look at this topic a bit, but then we close for today? And your answer is that you would like to continue? Okay, so I will take I know that is 25 to 4, so a few more minutes. Let's at least, what we can do is that we can summarize, kind of refresh our mind about what we learned from the simulation of multi-body dynamics, simulation of mechatronic machine. We're going to look at the introduction, description of particle, Euler angles, and then what is extremely important is Rodriguez equation. Rodriguez equation is already a method to express rotations in three-dimensional space using 4 parameters. This, by the way, will be already a question that is extremely difficult here to answer, because, you know, how is it possible that you can use 4 parameters to describe 3 rotations? Because the body can rotate 3 different ways. It's a fact. You know, there is no 4 ways that the body can rotate. It's only 3 different ways that the body can rotate. But still, we can use 4 parameters to describe that. So where is a link? Where is a constraint, or something that combines things together? Because these 4 parameters are not independent. They are related to each other. But where is a relation? That I will ask. And if you're able to answer that question today, I will offer you a lunch. I will. Remember last course I lost 2 lunches, but I kept my promise that this guy, they had lunch. Not even with me, so you can have a lunch with your friends. So no need to have a lunch with worth of lunch. Okay, but introduction. Let's get started from 3D multi-body dynamics. The few notes. Well, this is what you already are familiar with. You know this business. So a multi-body system is a mechanical setup that consists of a number of bodies. That's where the multi-body is coming from. Now, another important note about multi-body thing is that the bodies are connected together with mechanical joints. And these mechanical joints we can express mathematically by using constraints. That's what we did. This is what we're going to do in this course as well. Now, multi-body system dynamics is a general approach, and it's not making any assumption regarding the magnitude of body rotations. So that's why you can use a crankshaft where the connection rod is moving around all the time, or you can use it in pendulums that are not limited to small rotation, but instead you can analyze large rotations. Because of the large rotations, generally speaking, there is no analytical solutions available. But instead, we have to create the equation of motion. And once we have the equation of motion, we have to solve the equation of motion by using numerical time integration techniques. That's how it goes. Great. So, multi-body system dynamics, well, I claim that it's a straightforward approach. It's not based on the intuitions. It's not based on any of the clever relations you can find in your system, but it is straightforward. You're just following a few steps. You will get the equation of motion automatically. And that's it. And it can be applied to a number of applications, including robotics, mechanisms, vehicles, biomechanical systems, and such. Okay, so that's what you already learned from the previous course. Now, let's look how we can extend our knowledge to 3-dimensional space, because the simulation of mechatronic machine was all about planar cases, 2-dimensional cases. Now we can unlock like how is it we can describe particles, everything in a system in 3-dimensional space. And here's a body that is a 3-dimensional spatial body. And in a 3-dimensional spatial body, I have a particle P. And my target here is to describe the particle P with respect to global coordinate system or reference coordinate system. This is a coordinate system that typically is standing still, is not moving with the body, but instead is standing wherever it is initially located at. And then I have an additional coordinate system, which is kind of like assisting coordinate system, which is called body reference coordinate system. And the body reference coordinate system, that's the one that travels and rotates with body. So if the body travels or body translates, the body reference coordinate system will do that as well. And now, with help of these notations, which is a vector R and vector U bar, you can define where the point P is located in 3-dimensional space. Now, here are the few notations related to 3-dimensional space. Well, first of all, the order of rotation is very important. An order of rotation cannot be changed arbitrarily. We will get back to that a little later, but this is what you already learned from this previous course. And now something that is extremely difficult to understand, because this is something that if you would understand this in this class, I would offer you not just a lunch, but 2 lunches. Of course, there's no way that I can check if you understood this or not. But let me explain what I'm saying here. What makes 3-dimensional multibody dynamics difficult? What makes it difficult is that angular velocity is, or the vector of angular velocity is not the same than time derivation of angular generalized coordinates. And now you hear me like, velocity generalized, like that. That's all right, because this is very difficult concept to understand. But basically what I'm saying is that when we have generalized coordinates that describe how the body orientation is described, those are not the same than angular velocities if you differentiate these with respect to time. So this is very difficult concept to understand. Why they are not same, how are they related? That's what I would like to explain when I'm explaining these 3-dimensional multibody system dynamics for you. But don't get scared, because you read this statement and you're like, what? This makes absolutely no sense. But thanks God, this is the first lecture, so it's easy to skip this course. Of course, you can skip the course, but let me explain this to you with some time, and soon it all makes sense to you. And this is, by the way, perfect topic when you're having good time with your friends, say Friday evenings. You go to the bar, you can raise the topic that, by the way, have you ever heard this thing that angular velocity vector is not the same as time derivatives of angular generalized coordinates? And there will be a lot of talks. People will be like, really? You sure about that? Let me hear more. Let me hear the details. And then you can explain the details. Okay, but now what we're going to do next is that I'm going to just look at how is the description of particles. We're going to look a little bit about this description of rotations in 3-dimensional space, and then we're good for today. Now, this is how we can describe the particle, and this is the equation we are very much familiar with. So first, we're going to describe where is a body reference coordinate system with respect to global coordinate system. And then we're going to use the vector G bar. Vector G bar is describing this coordinate system, so this coordinate system must be mapped to this coordinate system. Who is doing the trick for us? That's going to be something that is called rotation matrix. It is converting the expression from one coordinate system to another coordinate system. And this is something that we need in order to make this local expression to be global expression. Okay, so that's what's going to happen. So this is a notation we're going to use, and we're going to focus on this rotation matrix, which in this time will be 3x3 matrix. We're going to look at this matrix in a few different ways, 3 different ways actually, not more than that. And the first way we're going to look at this matrix is based on Euler angles. In Euler angles, which you are familiar with, we're going to use 3 successive rotations. And based on 3 successive rotations, we can have the body orientation in space. It will be based on 3 parameters. And these 3 parameters comes with a major drawback, which is a singularity, sometimes called as a gimbal lock. Gimbal locking may be a serious issue if you are unable to handle that proper way. And we need to discuss a little bit about that. And then we're going to move on and we're going to discuss about 4 parameters. And as I mentioned, these 4 parameters will not be independent, but they will be related. But how? If you're able to address that, you can win a lunch. Clear? Okay, now is no communication whatsoever. So no this, no that, no this, absolutely nothing. Clear? Clear? Okay. A bit clear. So, okay, so let's look at the first method, which is based on Euler angles. Like I mentioned, the Euler angles will be based on 3 successive rotations. So the key word here is successive. So one rotation after another. So that's what it means. Okay, so most typical order of rotations, but the sequence of rotation is a Z, X, Z. It could be something else too, but this is often used. Now this, believe that's because of the gyro. An example about the gyro is actually located here. Now if you drawing the coordinate system to gyro, you will now recognize that the first rotation will take place around Z-axis. Second will take place around X-axis. And third again will be placed around rotated Z-axis. And this is a typical sequence of rotations that is used in Euler angles. It could be another sequence too. But this method, whenever you're using 3 parameters, always suffering from some serious drawbacks, you cannot get away from those drawbacks. Even if you change the order of sequence or the order of rotations, that's not going to help you at all. Okay, so we can introduce 3 rotations. So the first rotation will be amount of C. Is it? Yes. Phi or phi. C or phi. So let's call it phi, like I said in the very beginning. So phi. So the first rotation will take place around Z-axis, amount of phi. Now we have once rotated coordinate system. Now what we're going to do next is extremely important. So we're going to take a hold of once rotated coordinate system, and we're going to rotate it again. This time we're going to rotate it around the x-axis, and the amount of our rotation is phi. And then we have twice rotated coordinate system. We're going to take a hold on the z-axis again, and this time we're going to introduce the amount of rotation that is c. What is it? Well, this amount of rotation, we're going to have third time rotated coordinate system. So 3 times rotated coordinate system, that's our Euler angles. Mathematically, looks like this. So each one of the rotations, we can describe by 3 rotation matrix, and you know the business. So these are familiar with the planar case. This tells you where the axis of rotation takes place, Z, X, Z, and then once you multiply these successive rotations together, you will have a representation of 3 by 3 rotation matrix based on Euler angles. Now, these are the Euler angles. Generalized coordinates, those are the parameters that tells you how is the body orientation. Now I have 3 parameters. And these 3 parameters are listed here. I wish that I could pronounce them, but the first one is phi, second one is theta, and then the last one is c. We can do it together. Now we have, these are the 3 parameters we have. Now, the thing that I mentioned earlier, that angular velocity vector is not the same than time derivation of these 3 parameters. It means that if you have a theta dot, meaning that each one of these components have a dot top of its symbol, this will be not the same than angular velocity vector. Why not? We'll again get back to that number of times, but that's the kind of the core content of about 3-dimensional kinematics. Right. So that's about it. So that's how it looks. And now, as mentioned, the rotation order is Z, X, Z. And now I'm keeping here a good speed, and those of you, meaning you 2 guys that have not participated in the previous class, the speed may be too high. But that's all right, because we're going to slow down soon. Now, so this is how it looks. And now, shortly I'm going to explain about a few matters, and then we could just stop for today. Drawback associated to Euler angles is a singularity which must be carefully handled. So singularity, what that means? It means that it's possible that 2 axes of rotation becomes parallel. And the system actually have just a one way, or excuse me, 2 rotations to take place. And that's what is called singularity or Kimball locking. There's two good stories about the gimbal locking. And these are the ones that are shown here in the YouTube site. I recommend you to watch particularly the latter one. This one here is very good story about how is a gimbal locking. The gimbal locking is, even though that the title implies locking, it means that something is tight. It's not like physical mechanical lock, but it's more like mathematical lock, mathematical difficulty that must be solved one way or another. The difficulty means that the rotations are no longer, you cannot no longer differentiate what rotation is what. And that's exactly what happens if you rotate this gyro a bit such that this first and third rotation comes in the same line. Then it's no longer clear like are you going to rotate the first or third rotations. This is what makes it impossible to make a difference between these two rotations. And that's a little bit of source of singularity, but more stories about the singularities and the gimbal locking, please take a look at this YouTube site. Gimbal locking, by the way, even though that I'm not explaining that today in a thorough manner, but I will do it a little later. It's an outstanding question to written exam. Gimbal locking. Okay, you're always going to have this singularity problem when you're going to use 3 parameters. Always, always. And you cannot get rid of that. And that's, even if you change the order, you always have this singularity. And it can be only avoided if you're going to use 4 parameters instead of 3 parameters. Now, singularity, singularity, singularity. That's the problem whenever you're using 3 parameters. Now I'm not going to look at this. I'm not going to explain this in details because I promised that we're going to close timely matter today. That's what we're going to do. My last slide for today is this one here. So when using 3 rotational parameters, the problem is singularity, physical interpretation of parameters, usage of 3 parameters is limited to small rotations only. So that's my first in-class squeeze. And here, let me put it on. Okay, so please log into Socrative. So the room number is LUT. So you guys know how to use it. So just install the Socrative. Put your student ID number as your identity when you're logging. Then check the room LUT, and these 3 choices are available in LUT room. Then enter your answer, which is whatever you felt that is the correct one. And then, and then that's end of today's lecture. Next week, we're going to look a little bit about these 4 parameters. And now think about it again, beforehand. What is the relation? What is the way these 4 parameters are linked? There's a constraint that combines them together because it's valuable information. Who was that? Was that automatic?
Automatic.
Really? Look at that. Okay, so I have problem in my internet connection. Yeah, that is exactly the problem with this particular lecture room. So the internet is not strong enough. It's very weak here. But I got 14 answers already. Okay, what are you saying? What do you think that is going to be success rate today? 200. This is my man. 200%. Because we're not going to work with 110%, but 200%. Okay. 16 students. But I cannot display it. I need to figure out some alternative way to use my iPad together with my computer here. I guess that I need to use my phone or something. Okay, but I will figure that out before the next lecture. That will be on Monday then. What?
Also automatic.
So, is it me or one of you guys or?
Time to go.
Time to go. Okay, so if you're done, I have 14 answers, so I can tell you what is the success rate. Would you like to learn that? Oh my God! You can't believe it. 100% success rate. Unbelievable stuff. Unbelievable. What this means? You guys are like outstanding students. Is one of you, or what is this? Congratulations. Congratulations. Good stuff. Okay. Now we're going to close for today. I'm going to see you on Monday then.